Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks again for joining our webinar today, Common Questions webinar series. Today we're talking about paid search. With us today is Sam Moore. He's our Senior Paid Search Manager here at JED. But before we were lucky enough to get him, he's been with us for a while. So he's been at Rings and Things. He was an agency called AZ, formerly Unleashed Online Marketing, and before that he had his own shops for about a decade. So he's been doing this for a long time, and we're going to go in and talk about common questions that he sees on account, and we're going to make this as real world as possible. And without further ado, Sam Moore.
Hello. So today we'll talk about some common questions that I've encountered over the course of my career. Okay, I'm with you. Okay, so I've noticed that a lot of people talk about the technical parts of paid search and marketing, and oftentimes the things surrounding the actual technical paid search efforts have as much or more to do with the end result than any of the super technical details. And so that's what I'm going to get into today. Specifically, what's most important for the landing pages that people come to when they are clicking ads through your campaign. So what should your site be like? What should your landing pages be like in order to get the best results? Also, how much time should I give my campaign once they're running in order to see what's happening, what kind of results are occurring? Is it right away? Is it a little later? So we'll be talking about that. And how can I tell if the campaign is working? If a goal is set for sales or lead generation, how can we tell these types of things from our campaign? Well, diving right into it with landing pages, we have Wistia. Now, Wistia is a video hosting service for business. They're an excellent service, and here we have an excellent example of a landing page. We have their logo is clearly presented, so you know exactly where you're at. Nice, big, easy-to-read text. Sign up for your free Wistia account. So you know exactly what you're doing right when you get to the page. The form fields are big, easy to see, and there's not very many of them. Now, this is important because, as it turns out, the more information that you require on a form is the less likely that someone is to fill it out. So what you want to do, and what Wistia has done so well right here, is get the minimal amount of information that you need in order to capture as little as you can that still meets your business needs. So we have 5 form fields and a nice, clear create account button to super clear what you're supposed to do. So after you fill out the fields, you can hit that and it's real clear what to do.
You know, and to jump in, Sam, on the analytics side, I've seen this on the other side of the fence a lot. The all-time record for number of forms required, I've seen 27.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So 27 forms. And from the analytics side, when I talk to clients about limiting those, they always claim that they just need the information. They need that lead information.
Yeah.
And I found that just really just limits the number of leads. So it's very, very rare. In fact, I've only seen it once or twice when you're so flooded with leads that you need to trim, you know, that information or limit it. So is that your impression as well? That's what you've seen most of the time in your experience also?
It is. Almost exclusively, you're right, that's the case. One example in particular, I did work with a company called Video Symphony. They're a digital media editing school in Los Angeles. It's really cool. You go there and they teach you how to do motion graphics, like the girl who made the stuff for Lord of the Rings, the dragon, the giant spider. She was a student there at the time that we were working on this project. So that's where you go to learn this kind of stuff. Music production. It's an excellent school. So their interest was in getting leads from prospective students. And then the ad rep team would then contact the said prospective students and, work on getting them enrolled in the school and see if it was a fit. So when we started, we had a form, a lead generation form. As you can imagine, it was huge. It was 15 to 20 fields. First name, last name, phone number, area code was in a separate field. I mean, they were doing almost everything except asking for your social security number, which they probably would have if they could have got away with it. So all of this is useful to the sales team, certainly, but it significantly reduces the odds of somebody filling it out because nobody wants to fill out a giant form. I mean, it makes sense when you think of it from the perspective of yourself as filling out the form. And so through a series of changes, we were able to nearly double the qualified leads coming through, and therefore nearly double enrollment from a few changes and tests. So the things that we saw that made the biggest difference are the size and color of the actual form field. So like the place where you would put your name. Big form fields had a large impact there. In this case, having pictures, photos of actual students in the school environment made a big difference. Using authentic imagery, now I'm not talking about stock imagery, using authentic imagery of people in the place, in the school, went a long way toward people imagining themselves in that position and then seeing the value stronger.
You mean the multi-ethnic boardroom photo that doesn't work?
Right. or the person looking up as if the photo's being taken from 30 feet in the air. That one doesn't work so well either.
Yeah.
But having, the important thing isn't that it's a perfect photo of a moth. The important thing is that somebody can project themselves into that image and see themselves in that environment. So you're conveying a lot more of that value at the time, which is important because they are trading their information in exchange for whatever happens on the other end of that form. The information is a sort of currency being traded in this way. So the more that you can convey the value of what they're getting in exchange for the currency of their information, is the better that your lead generation form is going to do. So that's an example with Video Symphony of how we were able to considerably get things going through lead form. Another great landing page that I like here is from a company called Impact. Impact is like a design company. And the cool thing about this is, this landing page, it very clearly up front says, you can read this, generate even more leads from your blog. So this is doing, in essence, what I was just describing with the images of the perspectives of the students for Video Symphony. But it's doing it with words. So it's making it very clear what the value is. So us as a visitor, we can see, here's what I'm getting in exchange for my information. I'm getting the ability to generate more leads for my blog. Another cool thing about this is that it has some supplementary text on the bottom left explaining kind of in more detail what you're going to get. There's a free guide. There's a optimization tip. So this instills a level of even more trust. You're sure that you're at the right place at this point.
One of the things that we found that works on the after side of it, and this is another thing that people miss, is that once people click, it isn't over. So they need to still trust you after that click is made. And one of the things that that we've encouraged clients to do for a long time, and we use it ourselves, is a very well-crafted thank you form. So if they sign up, then send them to a /thank you page. And instead of just having it be a thank you page, you know, give them necessary information. Maybe that's how long it will take before the rep contacts that person. Maybe it's useful information. Hey, thanks for signing up for our upcoming webinar. Here are a few links for some more information about other relevant content. If they're buying a part for a car, maybe have some other links of other types of parts that might be relevant to their purchase, or just make it useful and help connect that dot. And from an analytics side, this is one of the biggest areas where we have, once we start doing some research, we figure out that we actually lost it after they tried to opt in, but then it was just hanging. So this is an easy thing to fix. Just make sure once you've gone to the work of getting the ad to get them to the form and hit the button and give the info, make that trust and confidence continue on. And a real easy way to do that is with a very custom, well-crafted thank you page. So just want to throw that in there. Sam, what was top of mind? Back to you.
Yeah, and that's a great point. It truly doesn't end with the landing page. A great thank you page can go a long way as well. In addition to lead generation pages, e-commerce landing pages are actually very important as well. Here we have Amazon's homepage for over the Black Friday weekend. Now, Amazon is interesting. Amazon has probably spent more than any company on record on making sure that we make a purchase on Amazon's site. This is key to their success. So they're spending millions and millions of dollars making sure that it is testing. So when we see something that's on Amazon and it's working, it's safe to use that as inspiration, I like to tell people, because we know that the R&D is already there. It doesn't mean copy it. It means use it as inspiration, because we know that a lot of thought and effort has been put into this. So what I'm seeing on this landing page is such an excellent example. We have, although Amazon sells millions of products, we have the most important things laid out and delineated very separately from each other, and it's not cluttered. We have the big area at the top, 30% off. It's the main leader item, and you can see there's a series of products there, but it's all very separate, delineated from the rest of the site. It's obviously segmented from the holiday gift guides, circular buttons below. There's a lot of white space being used here. Like, it's tempting when you have a number of products to want to put them all on there, feature them all, because you feel like, hey, they're all great, and they may well all be great. The way to get them to your great product is through smaller, more delineated areas, which is what they have going here. Another thing that people do with e-commerce is improve their product description pages. So if you go into Amazon or any e-commerce site, eventually you get to a point where you can add something to your cart. Those pages are very important in e-commerce because, I'll give you an example. I work with a company called Rings and Things, and Rings and Things sells parts for making jewelry. Okay, so they had nearly 30,000 of these kind of parts for making jewelry. They have the hooks for earrings, they have the gems, all of the stuff. So that's 30,000 pages on their website that people can potentially enter from when they're doing a Google search. That's a lot of landing pages to make sure to fit and are working. So what we noticed was that on these landing pages, we had almost 8 out of 10 people would get to the point where they see that page and they get there. And then they leave again. So that's technical term for that is a bounce rate. So we were thinking, well, we would make more sales if people weren't leaving. So how can we make them stick around? The things that we did on this page, well, I'll tell you, in the end, we ended up cutting their bounce rate in half. So instead of only 2 out of 10 staying, we actually got to where 6 out of 10 stayed, and with relatively small changes. What we changed specifically on these product pages, we made sure that the product had rich product descriptions that were actually useful to a person visiting the site. Now, that sounds like a no-brainer, but I think we've all been to e-commerce sites where you go there and there's no description at all, or you go to buy the thing and it's a repeat of the title of the thing, but you can't really learn more about it. So if you're able to learn more about an item, you're more likely to buy it. So we added some rich product descriptions. We also had the option for the visitor to see very, very large and detailed pictures of the items. Now you'd think, okay, earring hooks are an example. How detailed a picture do you need of an earring hook, right? I mean, it's like, it's very similar to a fish hook. If you've seen an earring hook, you've seen an earring hook. But earring hooks sell considerably better if the customer is able to see a screen-sized picture of something that's typically the size of your thumbnail. They can really examine that thing. That's not limited just to earring hooks. It's e-commerce site-wide. So having large images available for the people who want that level of detail made a large difference on the propensity of somebody to make a purchase. Also adding customer comments and reviews into those products made quite a difference as well. So these are all things that were pioneered by Amazon and companies like Amazon as techniques that were applied for rings and things and had a significant impact. So those are some specific things that we can do with product pages and looking at Amazon as inspiration. So at a point where we have some landing pages, we have an idea of what it's going to look like when people get there, but which one of them is working best? We know that it can be a good idea to have multiple landing pages going at once so that we can say, okay, we drove traffic to this landing page that had, Video Symphony again is an example. We have pictures of students on the landing page so people can imagine themselves in that position. Maybe maybe there's a picture of a guy with a purple shirt on one, and on the other one there's a guy wearing a blue shirt, or varying demographics on each one, some sort of difference between the two landing pages. You can run these things as a test and drive traffic to both, and then say, which one of these is actually working better, converting better? Which one of my pages is getting more leads and better leads? So this used to be quite a technical enterprise. When I first started working in the field, we would have to actually get coders to come in, make a duplicate of the page, change it up for us, and set up fairly complex systems for measuring and managing those changes. But today, there are a variety of great tools that require very little, if any, technical expertise. And I use them today as it's so much easier than actually having to code things. So one of these, especially for lead generation conversion, best tool I found is called Unbelt. You may have heard of Unbelt. They've been doing quite a bit of marketing and growing in popularity. But what Unbelt does is it lets you create duplicate versions of forms and pages within their own proprietary system, and then shows you statistics and measurement after the fact of which one did better than the other. So you can say, okay, landing page A, the guy with the purple shirt, did 20% more leads were generated from that page than blue shirt guy page. And it'll itemize that for you in a way that you can easily see what's going on. So you can easily build the forms in the first place and build the changes to the page in the first place. It's unbounced because you're improving your bounce rate on the page. So more people filling out the form as opposed to seeing the page and bouncing right off again. Another great tool that's improved quite a lot in the past year even, called Optimizely. Now, Optimizely is especially excellent because you can actually it essentially takes a duplicate of a page on your site, and you can drag and drop elements of your own page around, change it up, and then see what the changes are nearly in real time right after the fact. You're moving your logo over here, you're making your form, maybe you want your form on the left side of the page instead of the right. These are all things that would typically be difficult and you'd have to bring in a tech team to do for most people. With Optimizely, you drag and drop stuff around, put like one line of code in your site, and it manages that for you. And you can just kind of come back and see the results later. It's an excellent tool. Highly recommend it. Another question that I get often that's occurred over time is, how much time should I give my campaign before I start taking the data and deciding if it is effective or not? So if your campaign is running for a while, is it a long enough period of time to be able to tell if it's working? So when you're investing money into campaigns, naturally you want to see how your return is doing as soon as possible. So there's a temptation of, okay, it's been running a couple of days, where are we at? Very reasonable question. So what I like to suggest is that instead of thinking about the time involved, think about how many people are viewing the campaign. So how many impressions are being attributed to your campaign? So your campaign needs a lot of views. So the more views that it gets, the better the data. So if your ads are floating around out there on the internet, say they're targeted at specific people, or people are seeing it. Should you wait a week? Should you wait a month? It depends, really, on the number of people that are seeing that. What we found is that hundreds of impressions start to give us a picture of what's going on. So in this example, we have two ads for Jefferson's estate in Monticello. In the top one, we see that there's 4,000 and some change impressions. And in the bottom ad, we see close to 2,000 impressions. So if hundreds of impressions are good, thousands are better and give you an even more accurate picture of what's going on. And what we can see in this particular example is that, so we see nearly 5 times difference between on the click-through rate, rather, of the top ad versus the second ad.
So the other thing that I think is interesting here is the subtlety. So here we have thousands of impressions and between a 4 and 5x difference. Well, the only change is you're looking at a side angle of Monticello versus the straight-on view. Same building, same TripAdvisor review, same exact quote, But when you look at the one from the angle, well, that does feel warmer. It feels more compelling. So what does warmer and more compelling mean? Not necessarily anything, but when you look at, nearly 5,000, 6,000 total impressions, whatever the impression number is, one is definitely performing better than the other. And this is the type of testing that can be, it's super simple, and a lot of times it's counterintuitive, and you don't know until you've actually put it out there. And, just from all the work that Sam's done here, you don't know until you try. So definitely dive in and throw in some test variations, and you'll be, we're surprised almost every week. So, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing, and it makes it wonderful to be able to access this kind of data and do these kind of tests, because on the surface, these ads seem virtually the same. And as it turns out, one performs significantly better than the other. It's not the kind of thing that you could consistently get, but this kind of testing and data allows us to do exactly that. So having hundreds of thousands of impressions to go off of. In the previous example, we had thousands. Having hundreds of thousands is excellent. And at this stage, the data for click-through rate or other metrics changes very little, and you can be very confident in the results that are coming from this. So at 200,000 near impressions, we see that the click-through rate on the top ad is 0.29%. On the bottom ad is 0.35%. Now, it seems like a small amount, but at scale, that's around 17%-ish. Yeah, around 17% difference, that's significant. So we can say then, because there's so many impressions having been attributed, we can say with great confidence that this is a result that we can then apply to other scenarios in the advertising and expect a similar type of result. So we know in this case that ad B on the bottom is the clear winner, and we can safely apply that knowledge to other campaigns that use similar or the same ads. Very important, like we just mentioned, you'll want to test what works best. Things that have the biggest impact on landing pages, ad campaigns, are ad copy. Okay, so saying that the ad copy really influences performance, specifically using strong verbs and action words. Now, this is like marketing 101 stuff, but it's amazing how often this gets lost in the mix. So using strong verbs like learn, get, discover, leading with this kind of language in your landing pages and ads will have a significant impact. And which kind of copy will work better than others? Well, that's where the testing comes in. Images, also, like I mentioned, the video sensitivity, images have a huge impact. Because the ability for someone to imagine themselves in the situation of benefiting from your product or service is key. And so it's effective to use images towards this effect. Also colors. We've had situations where the background color, believe it or not, on a ad or a landing page actually matters. I've had an orange background display ad like the Monticello ones we just saw perform, well, I don't know, 10 or so % better than one with a blue background. And you say, how is that possible? We don't really know how it's possible, but it does play out in the data. It's real. Then you apply this to other areas. So testing is quite important.
And one of the things that I wanted to throw out there, whenever there's a presentation like this, we don't want the takeaway to be, oh, orange is better, orange for backgrounds. And I've had so many questions where people want to talk about the button color. Okay, so it's red button. No, in our test for a specific product, the red button happened to work. In Sam's example, the orange background was 11% better. Results vary. Everything is specific to a product. A very common rant, if you are around me after hours and we're talking shop, is that people want to paint the same broad brush on everything. Your business is unique. Your products are unique. And testing and discovery are the best ways to figure out what your product serves. Who is your audience? What motivates them? And every company is different. So if somebody tells you they know the button, they know the color, they don't. You don't know it until you actually go through and do the work and do the testing and go through the paces. So the takeaway isn't orange. The takeaway is take a look at these things and see what works.
Yeah, that's right, because there's no right answer for all industries, for all verticals, for all businesses. It's the kind of thing that you absolutely would need to test to find out. I would love it if red buttons worked to the best. It would make everything so much easier. Not the case. So we have to test these things to find out and make sure. Ecosystem. So a lot of paid search is one of many channels of revenue that are coming into a business. So other examples would be organic search. So, people coming off of natural Google results. Retargeting is another type of advertising where someone's been to your site before and then they're out on the internet and the ads follow them around so they want to return. Referral, like links from other websites out on the internet that just link back to your site again. These are all varying channels. Paid search is one of these channels. So one thing that I see often is that we'll say, okay, I've invested X dollars into paid search. I'm going to go into my analytics and see exactly what results that I get from that specific investment. It's a good way to look at it, but in reality, it's not so siloed. I'll give you an example. I'm a guitar player. When I was a kid, it was all about heavy metal music, the long-haired guys, the ripped shirts. I loved that stuff. And so as an adult, I said to myself, I'm going to buy a bitchin' heavy metal guitar. I want something that shreds, right? Now I'm a grown-up. I can afford a cool guitar from my high school, and I'm going to get that thing. But I didn't know much about it. I mean, I'm a guitar player, but now this is like another level of metal. So, so this is my little girl. She's barely taller than the guitar. It's a cool guitar. So I had no idea about how do you go about this. So here's an example of how the channels work. Initially, I looked up Warlock. The kind of guitar this is a Warlock, like the coolest name. So I looked up Warlock guitar. That's about how much I knew about it at the time. And a guy from like Motley Crue had it. So I looked up Warlock guitar. I saw an ad at the top of Google there. A company was called Musician's Friend. And I remember all this because I wanted this guitar so bad for so many years. And then now was my opportunity to get it, so I was researching it, and I remember stuff about it. Look up Warlock guitar. I clicked on a paid search ad, and I visited the site. I learned some stuff about it. I learned that I wanted a black one instead of a red one, or I wanted a large one instead of a small one. But I didn't buy it at that time. I'm still in the research phase. So then when I was looking at I was looking at a site, CNN, some similar news site, and I was served a retargeting ad. from the same company because I've been on their website before. Now there's an ad on the side that has not the same kind of guitar, but a similar guitar. And I was reminded of these guys. Now I didn't click through, but it was part of my world and was kept relevant in my world due to this ad showing up on this site. A week or two later, I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I'm ready to make a purchase. I know exactly what I want. I don't remember the name of that guy, musicians, something, I don't know. I'm just going to look it up and look up this kind of guitar in Google. So I look it up. Among the top results is, I look up Black Warlock guitar, and among the top results is the site Musician's Friend that I recognize now because I was recently reminded of it with the retargeting. So after clicking the organic search link in Google, I go through to Musician's Friend and buy the guitar. And it was like the best, that $900 I ever spent. Like, I play on that thing constantly, and I'm not that. So but what I'm saying is that the purchase from the side of the Musician's Friend business looked like it came from an organic search link. Because that was the last thing that I clicked prior to making the purchase. But I'm sorry, Sam, go ahead. But in reality, my research was, and the purchase was initiated by a click on a paid search advertisement.
So, and this is where it gets tough when we're talking to clients about attribution, right? So in your example, you knew enough about a Warlock guitar, you saw the ad, okay, there's first touch. Well, then in retargeting, we're not tracking. We have no means of detecting whether or not your brain sees the retargeting ad on the website. That's right. You didn't click it, you didn't go to the site, but your brain went noted. Mm-hmm. Like, we have no means of tracking that. So from a retargeting standpoint, you have a lot of clicks. You're making impressions that are not being reported. So in almost all cases, retargeting will under-report leads or sales or what have you, because that same exact scenario happens. You also have the scenario where someone is at the office at lunch shopping, then they're waiting in a train or wherever on their phone, and they're shopping, and they're going through different devices, and they're using their laptop at home, right? So you have different devices, and attribution is really tough. And what we see in a lot of cases are people that are trusting the last click as the sole provider of the sale. And there's no way to necessarily disprove that, or it's very difficult to disprove, but trust the touches. Take a look at those touch points and how a purchase is being made. Some are very simple, some are very complex. I think yours is probably pretty normal amount of research for, somewhere in the middle probably. Right. And look at how complicated this is. It's paid search, it's retargeting, it's organic, it's a certain amount of brand awareness over the course of a couple weeks, something like that, a month maybe?
Yeah, like maybe a month. And so I've subsequently made more purchases. Like that's where I like to buy my strings now. And when I wanted a new amp, I bought the amp.
So now we're going into lifetime client value. So you found Musician's Friend, and you like buying from them. And this is that opportunity. So if you're able to go in and sell something and do a good job, you're now able to talk about lifetime client value. And that's, from an analytics standpoint, that's where we really try to push people. But the first step is understanding the channels and the process. So whenever you're in that situation, put yourself in the buyer's shoes and think of the process they're going through. And this is an awesome way to put it together and think about it.
Yeah, and in terms of measurement, seeing how paid search did strictly is a good element in understanding the entire picture. And the entire picture includes these type of things. So a good way to think about this is to look at the overall lift that occurs among many channels during and after paid search campaigns, because almost every time that a paid search campaign runs that I've been a part of, we see lift in paid search revenue results, but we also see a similar lift in organic, in retargeting, in a number of different areas when we know that it initiated from paid search. And so all of these different channels work together as sort of an ecosystem. Thinking of it in this way, you know, is going to give you just such a better picture and a better understanding of the story of where your customers are coming from and how to get more of them more efficient. So where do we go from here? Have some ideas. We're going to have a Q&A follow-up here in a moment. JV Commerce's blog has all kinds of good information, consider digital marketing and paid search. The sites that allow you to go in a less technical way, build out your landing pages and do some testing are called Unbelt and Optimizely. And if you're looking to really dive deep in a technical sense into paid search, Google AdWords, Google does offer certification to get into the technical aspect of this. So they have a wonderful program of education and to learn how to manage these things on a technical level.
Okay, are we up to the Q&A?
We are. It's Q&A time.
Okay, so we're going to hit mute for, I don't know, probably about 30 seconds, give people an opportunity to type in a question, and then we will get right to it. Okay, first question in, straightforward. How do we get certified in AdWords?
Okay, so Google, look at AdWords certification in Google. Naturally, Google is going to take you right to it. With just an email address, you'll get access to many modules and videos of people describing exactly how to manage things. Very in-depth, excellent information. At the end of the course, there is a certification test to take. The test is right. So the test is available there, and I'd highly recommend it because whether you intend to take the test or not, the courses are excellent. They are
they're free, right?
They are free. They're at no cost, and it's a great way to look deeper into paid search.
Okay, another question came in, advantages, disadvantages of CPM versus CPC, that being cost per thousand and cost per click.
Right, okay. So cost per click is the type of thing where you're paying each time that somebody clicks your ad, clicks through to your site. And cost per thousand is where you're saying, it's a little more like broadcast. It's saying, for 1,000 people that see this ad, I'm willing to pay X amount. Two different strategies. They both have strengths and weaknesses depending on the situation. If you are looking to generate leads or make sales, direct sales on your e-commerce site, this type of thing, I like to go with cost per click because you can easily identify how much you're spending per person visiting, and then relate that to business goals after the fact. CPM, or cost per thousand, is better for the awareness phase. Like in my example of the retargeting ad that I was served that did influence my purchase, but that I didn't necessarily click on. Cost per thousand can be a very good way to handle that. because you get it to a larger variety of people, and you're saying, how many people did I potentially influence as a measurement instead of click, since we aren't expecting clicks to happen so much on that stage of the marketing cycle.
Okay, looks like we got one more. It came to us directly. What type of, oh, wait, read the wrong one. Oh, okay. Yeah. Is it wise to bid on your brand name?
Okay, good question. So, yes, the answer is a definite yes, and here's why. Okay, let me back up a little bit. It could seem like, hey, I have my brand, I already show up #1 for organic. Why would I want to put an ad up there and then spend money clicking for somebody to click something that's already there organically? There are a few reasons why you want to do this. The first one is it doubles your real estate on the page. So if you're there in organic, you're there once. And if you're there with organic and a paid search ad on your brand name, you're there twice. And you're pushing everything that isn't you further down the page, which is a good thing to do. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is that Google will actually charge you very little per click for your own brand name, 5, 10 cents a click maybe. So there's really no disadvantage to doing that. There was a time when Google would charge normal rates and let people bid against each other for brand names, but they got so much kind of a feedback for that they give you a distinct advantage cost-wise on your own brand. So it's a good idea to do. Conversely, bidding on competitors is disproportionately expensive, and Google does this as well. So you'll want to take a close look at whether bidding on competitors is worthwhile. But I would say definitely put your own brand name in paid search.
Cool. That was our last question. Sam, thank you very much. If you have any further questions, you can go ahead and reach out to us via email, and we'll be posting about this as well. And we'll also have a video link. A reminder, next Tuesday at the same time, we'll have Teen Reese, who runs our usability department. She's going to talk about the top 10 mistakes that she's seen from a usability standpoint. Everything from overall look and feel to how websites are laid out. What are some mistakes and some things to do that are really going to help? So that's going to be next Tuesday. So go ahead and sign up for that same time. So noon Pacific next Tuesday. So we'll see you next time. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody.